live.
Okay, it's the planning board meeting of March 2nd, 2022. And I am the chairman, Cesar Manfredi. Other board members would be Mike Smith, Dan McGillicuddy, Laurie Davidowitz, and Kevin Thurman. Mike Bafuco is absent tonight. He's our alternative. Sarah Palermo will be the gatekeeper. Marianne Bessage is the village attorney. Ed Marin is the village building inspector. And Doug Hahn is consultant to the village's consultant engineer. Sarah, how did we do with the minutes? Everybody okay with minutes? Did you get any comments? Was done?
Yes, I received the comments and the February minutes are ready for approval.
Does anybody have any comment on the February 2, 22 minutes?
No.
No, okay. Do we have a motion to approve? Did I hear somebody speak just then? No. Do we have a motion to approve actually it's 2/2/22 minutes.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nobody opposed. All right, the taxes are up to date, Sarah?
Yes,
All right, the Zoom meetings are coming to an end via the legislation allowing for Zoom meeting comes to an end mid-March. So the next meeting of the planning board the board will meet in person, but we have decided that for the best interests of moderately getting back into the real world that the consultants would present by Zoom. So any consultants that are coming
Not the
back,
consultants, the applicants.
the applicants and their consultants
Right.
would present by Zoom. The public can enter by Zoom, or if they wish, they can come in person. Okay, the lineup for tonight. Number one would be 39 Beechwood Road. Number two is 16 Park Road. Number three is 20 Elm Park. Number four is 3 Dow's Lane. Number five is 2 Deep Hollow Close. And number 6 is 44 Northbrook Lane. Okay, Sarah, do we have the number 139 Beechwood Road, which is 2022-04?
yes, there's somebody here. I think John's having a bit of difficulty because he has his hand raised and I'm trying to get him to be a panelist and it's not, doesn't seem to be going through.
There is.
Oh, okay.
Hello, guys. I'm Malone, Ferguson Malone Architecture for Beechwood Road, for the Beechwood Road project. We received the comments for today. It seems like they're focused mostly on civil engineering corrections to the drawings into the report. I think Ally and I in our office reviewed it. I think we understand it. I think we can pick all of this up for you. Is there anything, Cesar, that you want to review at the meeting here, any of these items? Because they're.
Do you think or you know?
No, do you need to review anything specific?
No, I know, but you said you
Yeah.
think, you know you can do it.
Oh, yeah, I know, I'm sorry, yes, yeah, they're all minor stuff, we can do them all.
The only, if I recall, we had, well, there were other questions, but the one that was pertinent was the little hammerhead, whether or not the turning radius was sufficient when you come out of the garage to actually use it. Did you bring that up?
Right, we did look at it more closely and adjusted it slightly. Let me pull it up, hold on one second. Yeah. So we looked at the layout. It was actually a little bit too close to the, which is I think what you guys pointed out. It was a little too close to the existing garage for it to actually function. So this got moved slightly in order to make the turning radius actually work.
Okay, let me poll the board. Mike Smith,
I have no further questions.
Dan,
No further questions. Thank you.
Laurie,
No questions, thanks.
Kevin? Kevin, you're muted, Kevin. Kevin, you're muted.
It looks like he can't turn it on. He doesn't have his microphone or it's not functioning.
And he was
Yeah.
talking before at the, here we
Hi,
go.
can you hear me?
No,
Yes.
No, I have no questions. I'm sorry.
Okay, this is Caesar, and I have no further questions. Mary Ann, do we have a resolution prepared?
yeah. Whereas in February
Oh,
2020,
Mary Ann. Any members of the public have any comment?
There's nobody raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
Sorry for the interruption, Mary Ann. Go ahead.
yeah. In February 2022, Catherine and Frederick Lark applied for site development plan approval to construct an addition and pool and expand the driveway at their house at 39 Beechwood Road. And whereas because the proposed construction exceeds permitted coverage and the pool is located in the front yard, variances are required from the zoning board of appeals. Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated February 1st, 2022, listed a number of items, most of which were addressed in the subsequent submission. Suzanne Nolan, the village's landscape consultant, reviewed the plans and made 2 recommendations which were addressed to her satisfaction. Planning board held a public hearing on the application on February 2nd and March 2nd. The action's type 2 action under secret and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Lark Residence prepared by Ferguson Malone Architecture. I detail the sheets and the dates. In the drawings entitled Proposed Additions and Alterations prepared by Hudson Engineering and Consulting, also the sheets and dates, subject to receiving variances from the ZBA for coverage and pool location and complying with the items listed in Han's memorandum dated March 1st, 2022.
Okay, thank you. Well, not associated with our review or approval. There are beech trees on your property, and our landscape architect, as well as from my own personal experience, know that beech trees are in danger from various blights, nematodes and other attackers that attack beech trees. So you may want to, if you want to save your beech trees, you may want to consult with an arborist and develop a treatment and feeding program for your beech trees. Okay, thank you. Let me poll the board for a vote. Mike Smith,
I approve the resolution and authorize Sarah to sign for me.
Dan McGillicott,
I approve of the resolution and designate Sarah to sign for me.
Lori Davidowitz,
I approve the resolution and designate Sarah to sign.
Kevin,
I approve and authorize Sarah.
Caesar approves and authorize Sarah to sign for me. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. We'll move on to the next. The next is number 2, 16 Park Road, 2022-08.
Sorry, John, I didn't realize you were the,
No problem. John Malone, First One Architecture, representing the Lamsfeld. This is a project for an accessory apartment and existing above an existing garage. The project is, there is no change to the existing building except on the interior. There's an apartment going into what is a unfinished space right now. In terms of the site plan portion of it, this is the existing house, the existing garage with the second floor. The site plan disturbance is limited to connecting utilities to the building. So we did get notes. We understand the notes from both Doug about the water and the ejector pump in the same trench. I think there was a typo. We should have said what schedule the pipe is. It just says PVC schedule. It doesn't say which schedule PVC it is.
I think it did say, I think it mentioned the table. I think you just need to put the actual material.
Yeah, it said PVC. It was supposed to say PV schedule 40 or alternate as per table so and so. So we were trying to say, but it doesn't say what schedule it is, Doug. It just says PVC schedule.
Okay.
doesn't have a number.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll correct that. And then we have new notes from Suzanne about protecting these two beech trees. So we can do that.
John, the comments I made about the beech trees in the previous application, I had already turned the page and I was looking at the notes for this, and the beech tree comment I made pertains to this project.
Yeah, I was thinking we'd figure that out. Yeah, these two beaches. So there are notes in the drawings already indicating that this trenching, that's the connection, will be done by hand. I think Suzanne asked for us to expand the tree protection. So we'll expand it out to the drip line of these two trees and then cut it across here, and then we can put compaction protection in that area and add any notes that she's looking for there.
Yeah, I think the thrust of Suzanne's comments about the roots, given the blight that's affecting beech trees, that digging around the roots may be, the straw that breaks the beech's back. So be careful.
We can get Malcolm McBurney to give us, like a treatment, like a Cambistat treatment or something that, repairs. We'll get his opinion on that.
And from my experience, it's a very layered treatment. There's 2 or 3 things going on, so it's not, we'll spray it. There's injections. There's 2 or 3 things that you have to do because they really don't know which one is the killer.
Right. In terms of what's going to work. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Based on this, the other items, sprinkler system will be required. We understand that, and so I guess that's the only item that we have there. We can, that's usually part of the permit set.
Okay. Anything else, John, before I poll the board?
Nope.
Mike?
I have one question, John. Is the purpose of the application to rent out this accessory apartment?
I think that's the goal ultimately. I don't know if it's necessarily the near term, but I think the goal ultimately is to have the option to rent that out, whether it's to, staff or something like that.
Could you got interrupted, so could you repeat yourself, John?
Yeah, I think their ultimate goal is to be able to rent it out. I don't think it's the first use of it. I think they're using it for help for a nanny function, which I guess is similar to renting it out. But I think if it's staff in the future, it would be rented out.
Okay, thank you.
And
No questions, Caesar. Thank you.
Lori?
No questions, thanks.
Kevin?
No question.
All right, Caesar has no further questions. Sarah, anything from the public?
nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
Mary Ann, do we have a resolution prepared?
Yeah, I did. And let me just clarify, this is an application for an accessory apartment special permit, so it's a little different. This is actually under the code, there can only be 50 of these special permits outstanding. This is the second. So this is permit number 2. In February 2022, Christine Lamsvelt and Ben Thompson applied for special permit pursuant to Article 31 of the zoning code for a 1-bedroom accessory apartment in the finished space above the existing garage on their property at 16 Park Road. The application shows that the proposed accessory apartment meets the requirements of zoning code 224-201 subsections A to B and D to F and I. The planning board conducted a public hearing on the application on March 2nd. The planning board does not believe that the accessory apartment would negatively affect parking, traffic, noise, congestion, or the character of the neighborhood. Granting this special permit is a type 2 action under SECR and requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board issue a special permit to applicants for a 1-bedroom accessory apartment subject to 1, submitting a certification that the applicants occupy the principal dwelling on the property as their principal residence as required by zoning code 224-201C. There was an affidavit in it, but it didn't include everything. So just make sure it has this wording in it. 2, that the building inspector finding the proposed accessory apartment complies with the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code. 3, receiving a building permit and certificate of occupancy. And 4, complying with the items listed in the March 1st, 2022 memorandum of Douglas Hahn. And be it further resolved that the accessory apartment special permit shall expire 3 years from the date below, which is today, but may be renewed by the planning board upon application under Article 31. And be it further resolved that the accessory apartment special permit shall expire automatically upon change of ownership of the house or when applicants cease to occupy the residence.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second, somebody?
Second.
I'll canvass now for a vote. Mike? Mike Smith, we have a vote.
I approve the resolution and authorize Sarah to sign for me.
Dan?
I approve and designate Sarah to sign for me.
Lori?
I approve and authorize Sarah to sign on my behalf.
Caesar approves and authorize Sarah to sign for me. Thank you very much, John. By the way, Mary Ann, are they actually numbering like this is number 2 and so you can keep track?
Yeah, all right. It's getting pretty close, 2 out of 50. I think we passed this law about 5 years ago.
Actually, the number 2 is actually affixed to this.
Yeah, the last one said accessory apartment permit number 1, the first one, so I put 2 on this one, yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're moving to number 3, which is 20 Elm Park, 2022-05.
Good evening, everybody. My name is George Alessandratos from Keenan Bean, represent the.
Sorry, could you read the last name? I didn't quite get it.
Sorry, Alessandratos from Keenan Bean. We represent applicant Tom Willingham on 20 Elm Park. Tonight we have same cast of characters as last time. We have Mark Schulman and Nick Marks from Design Development. They're the architects on the plan. We have Brian Hildenbrand from Hildenbrand Engineering. He's the site civil engineer. We have Greg Mercurio, who is the landscape architect on this project. We also have Chris Munch, who is from Gray Book Inc. He is the project manager. And we have Tom Willingham, the owner of 20 Elm Park and the applicant on this application. Since the last time we came before you, we received the comment memo from Han Engineering and from Nolan Landscape Architects, the two village consultants. We have addressed those comments for tonight. And just as a brief overview, we brought in the Greg Mercurio from Carriage House. He's the landscape architect to address the comments from Nolan Landscape Architects. And we've taken some steps to mitigate some of the concerns that were presented concerning the coverage and floor area numbers. We've lessened the patio in the front. We've removed the patio in front of the master bedroom there. And as you'll see later in the presentation, we also removed the patio along that back wall, along the aqueduct. That was where I had like a barbecue last time, if you recall. We removed that. So the coverage has changed a little. We've taken into account the calculations and that. And you know, Mark from Design Development and Brian from Hildenbrand Engineering, they'll be able to speak more in detail about those. But before we start on that, I would like to address, there was one comment made last time, and I just want to address it at the outset about the driveway issue, because 20 Elm Park is a unique property. It's you know, off Main Street, you go down South Dearman, and you go a little further and you have 20 Elm Park. So it's really tucked away back there. And one of the issues is the driveway in terms of its size. It can't accommodate, it's difficult to accommodate until you get to the property any car larger than a regular sized car. So that includes delivery trucks, or, you know, whether it's Amazon, whether it's USPS, whatever the case may be. So our project includes adjusting that to make it, you know, more functional. And we actually have, Nick, if you want to pull up the letters from the neighbors, we have the two neighbors that are to the north and to the east of the property. To the north is 35 South Dearman, and to the east is 19 South Dearman. So 35 South Dearman, Joseph Clark, this is a letter, and these letters will be part of our physical submission next time, but I figured we could touch on it today briefly. This is a letter from Joseph Clark, who's the owner of 35 South Dearman. That's the house to the north of the of 20 Elm Park. And he addresses that there are issues that make it extremely difficult for vehicles to exit South Dearman without pulling into a driveway. One of the issues is that Main Street is, you know, it's a busy street. It's called Main Street, right? So when you turn into South Dearman, it is a dead end, and there are cars parked. I don't know if anyone's had the pleasure of driving down South Dearman. There are cars parked on both sides. So really, you have space for enough space for one car to go down South Dearman. And what happens is, if you don't know it's a dead end, or if you you turn in there accidentally, or whatever the case may be, what happens is there's not space to make a U-turn unless you go in someone's driveway, which most people don't want to do that. They don't feel comfortable doing it. So what ends up happening is you have to back out of South Dearman. Now that's difficult because of the narrowness of the street, but it's also difficult because you're backing onto Main Street, which that is also, you know, that's a risky proposition. So the neighbor, Joseph Clark, here says that in his letter, as you can see on the screen, the proposed site modification in terms of the driveway, it's going to help alleviate the problem, not only for the applicant, Tom Willingham, but also for his residents, where a lot of people tend to stop at the top of Tom's driveway, which, because of the way that the parcels are laid out, the top of Tom's driveway is right in front of Joseph Clark's driveway. So when you're stopping there, whether, again, a delivery truck or whatever the case may be, they're blocking Joseph Clark's driveway or the neighbor on the other side's driveway, 19 South Dearman. So Joe Clark at 35 is on board to, modify the driveway, because it not only helps Tom, but it helps really that little, it's not a cul-de-sac, but that area of South Dearman. And then if you go to the next letter, Nick, there's a letter from Gloria and Josh Keller, who have 19 South Dearman to the east of 20 Elm Park. And this letter goes, actually, it details the changes that have been made to 20 Elm Park, because Gloria and Josh have been there for 26 years, so they're sort of intimately familiar with whatever changes have gone that 20 Elm Park has gone through. And they also have the same comments. This list has to do with exterior and interior changes and how the property has come to where it is now. But Nick, if you go to the second page, here you'll see that they do mention that they're on board with the proposed plan for the bed to make it a one, to make it possible to live on the first floor. And they're also on board with the driveway, not renovation, but the driveway alteration, the work on the driveway. They, as you see, they have no objections. And in fact, they say the property has always been tricky for car and truck access for the same reasons as the other property. It's difficult to turn around in the driveway and even more difficult to back out of the driveway. And here in 2B, drivers sometimes fail to appreciate the meaning of a dead end sign at the end of South Dearman. So they drive to Tom's driveway, 20 Elm Park, which also, again, coincides with 35 South Dearman and 19 South Dearman. It's like a little triangle there before they realize they can't go any further. So it is difficult. And again, they also touch on the idea of delivery trucks and having to park there and deliver mail or whatever the case may be is not only inconvenient, but if there's a delivery truck there and God forbid there's an emergency for 35 South Dearman, 19 South Dearman, or 20 Elm Park, then it's a problem. Then there's no way to get out in that case of emergency, but also there's no way to get in. The driveway modification is going to help facilitate any emergency vehicle access, whether it's, again, God forbid, a fire truck or an ambulance or a police car, whatever the case may be. That's all going to help. So as you see here at the end of this letter from Gloria and Josh Keller, the proposed site modifications have no negative effect on their property, and it will in fact improve the traffic at the end of South Dearman. And a little further up the page, it solves problems remaining from previous modifications, and it will make the property more accessible. So these letters, we will submit them in a physical copy to the village, after today, before the next meeting. But I just wanted to touch on this from the beginning because I know last meeting there was some concern about how much does the driveway have to be altered and does it really have to be altered? So, and someone mentioned, if I recall, speaking to some of the neighbors. So these are the only two neighbors that are affected, 35 South Dearman and 19 South Dearman, because of the way the property is situated. So I just wanted to talk about these at the outset to address that comment about the driveway. And without further ado, I will now hand it over to Mark Schulman and Nick Mark on development. Unless there's questions, yes.
Excuse me, Counselor, before we get off the letters, unless I'm mistaken, has anybody on the board seen these letters other than first time tonight?
No,
No.
they just, one of them was dated yesterday, and the other one 2 days ago, so it wouldn't have been in the packet.
Sarah, you haven't seen them to distribute them, correct? Sarah?
Sorry, no, we didn't receive these letters ahead of time.
Okay, so I just want the record to be clear that even though they're addressed to the planning board, it's the first time we're seeing them tonight at this meeting. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I sorry if I didn't mention that at the beginning, but that's why we are going to submit them physically so that everyone can take a look at them and they'll be part of the physical record and all that. Thank you very much, Mr. Manfredi, for pointing that out. So now, if there's no other questions on this, I can hand it over to Mark Schulman and Nick Marks from Design Development, and they'll talk about some of the changes we've made since the last meeting.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Mark Schulman here with Design Development, working with Nick Marks as well, who's in charge of the images. I think the first thing that I wanted to do is just ask procedurally. I know that comments were issued and we responded with documents, supporting documents as well. I'm happy to go through each of the comments if you'd like.
So you mean each of the engineering comments?
Yeah, well,
go through the changes you made, and
okay.
And we had an issue with coverage.
Yes.
And in reviewing the revisions, I saw a chart on coverage for the neighborhood.
Correct.
I think that's something we would like you to go over.
Okay.
Particular. And you also added the parking area as coverage, and I'm
Correct.
not sure if what you took out as coverage equaled what you added as coverage for the parking. So you should go up.
Yep, we can walk you through that, certainly.
All right.
Okay, so we'll start with that, but before we jump into that, we also did receive additional comments yesterday or the day before, and we have also we are prepared to talk about those. We've addressed them, and we have a response, and we have also revised our documents to reflect those comments as well. And I'm happy to take you through that if you'd like. I'll leave that up to you, but we can start.
I think the comments you received the other day, you're cutting down 2 trees, rather large ones, and a third one is sure to die because the retaining wall by the parking area is going to kill it by cutting up the roots. So you either need to move the wall or concede that that third tree, the 32-inch sugar maple, is going to be removed. And when you come back, you need to demonstrate replacement canopy trees, because those are called canopy trees. They're tall and have leaves at the top. And since you're taking down 2, and I'm not sure what you're going to do with the third one, save it by moving the wall or leaving the wall where it is and taking down the 32-inch sugar maple. Assuming you're going to do 3 trees coming down, you really need to come up with replacement trees in the new proposal when you come back. And we're not talking about little twigs, something substantive that will take the place of, I mean, normally a tree comes down, a tree goes up. So we would like to see what you have to say to looking at new canopy trees and where you might place them.
Okay, and I think that Greg, our landscape architect, can address that as well.
And one of the major issues of the engineering is drainage. I mean, you're at the bottom of a hill,
right?
Putting new impervious surface. I mean, the drainage doesn't seem to affect your neighbors, but you're going to be, excuse the expression, swimming in it, or your client will be, unless you get the drainage right. So the emphasis on drainage when you come back, and the comments that Doug Hahn provided on drainage. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and Brian will address that. So I think between the 3 firms here, we can tag team to address all these issues. So the first one, and I think that Nick, we can just go to the plan. We can show you. So yes, we were here before you. We know we need variances for both coverage and for floor area, and there were questions.
But that time you also needed a variance for the aqueduct buffer.
Correct. So the first thing we went back and we looked at, so we scrutinized the plan and said, okay, what's really critical outdoor space? Do we absolutely have to have it? And is there a way to compromise here? So I would say that the first thing in the lower right-hand corner of this plan, there was a patio just outside the primary bedroom or this master bedroom. We have eliminated that in its entirety. That's one move. The second is that we've also cut back this central courtyard feature. We pushed that back flush with essentially the extended, the covered entryway. So it aligns with that and projects out, and the footprint is smaller. And then in the top left there, that bubbled area is there. We also had a patio. So there's stairs that come out of the kitchen onto this landing, and then stairs down to the backyard. It's access to the backyard. There was a patio there. We've eliminated that as well. So we have reduced the coverage. The other, so that
I had a barbecue back there.
And we had the barbecue back there. So that has been eliminated.
Okay.
And then there were a couple of other things that were corrections or clarifications that needed to be made with our original application. The first is that we did not show the existing stairs that go down to the basement on the original application. That was not incorporated originally as coverage, and it should have been. And just like the parking, as you had mentioned, a portion of that driveway where the cars park will also need to be counted as coverage. So we now have, so with those adjustments and the clarifications, we have updated we have updated our plan, so we've got a it is a net decrease in the coverage requirement. So you can see it has been reduced. And then the floor area calculations.
Excuse me, just to be clear, what you took out is greater than what you added for the parking area.
So it's a little bit more complicated than that. The original coverage calculation was greater than we had previously indicated. So the existing coverage initially should have been greater on the initial
Okay.
application, because Nick, if you can just put the mouse around the patio that was not initially included. On the lower left, down there, the patio area back there on the ground floor, not the patio, the stair. So there was an existing stair in the rear that went down, yes, that area. So we did not have that in the original application, but there's 2 retaining walls and there are steps that lead down to the basement. So we did not have that in the original.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Application. So what ends up happening is, so we in fact had we started off with more coverage than we had initially presented. So we made that correction. And then to the image to the right, you can see the hatched-in areas are really the new coverage. So again, reduction in elimination of 2 patios, reduction in the courtyard, and the addition of the parking leads you to essentially now the new coverage. So you see the red bubbled area on the zoning analysis chart.
Mhm.
That these are now the new numbers. And then what we did is at your request, we did a comparison of our property to neighboring properties, so that you can see the comparison. So these are the various. So you can see where our site is site number 1 there in the middle, and then so we analyzed in red that boundary area. We analyzed the area calculations for those adjacent properties, if you will, and so George, I'm gonna turn this back over to George, because George is.
You can blow that up a little bit so I can see it.
George, you want to just take us through that, please?
Yeah, so what this table is showing is we took basically whoever got the mailing notice, that little radius of abutting property owners based on the village's definition, and we eliminated any obviously commercial uses, because you can't commercial uses and coverage and residential uses and coverage. It's a messy thing. They're not applicable. So we took the residential, and what you'll see here is we have it broken down, and this is through the GIS information. So we have the owner, the address, the parcel number. We have the zoning, which is mostly the 2F or the 1F5 zoning. There's some business zoning just because it's, along that Main Street area. But if you look all the way on the right, we have the class, which determines, it could be in business, but it's still a 2-family residential or 1-family residential, whatever the case may be. So the way we got this information was going through the Greenberg GIS and pulling up the property cards. And the lot area under lot information, that's provided on the Greenberg GIS property cards in square feet. So that's where we got the square footage for lot area. The coverage, and we got that from, well, let me go to floor area ratio first, actually. The floor area ratio on the property cards, there is a little box that usually on the second floor, and it says dwelling computations, total living area. So that's how we calculated floor area, total living area equaling floor area. And then coverage, there's no real way. The property cards unfortunately don't say what the exact coverage is. So we actually took inspiration from a submission before you guys for 39 Beechwood. They had a nice table like this. And if you see down on the bottom there's a little asterisk. For coverage, we took 25% of the total building footprint, and that accounts for walks, retaining walls, and miscellaneous hardscapes. On the property cards, there's a little diagram. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the property cards. There's a diagram of each property, of each parcel. And it's sort of like a very, very basic floor plan. And it has the exterior dimensions. So we took that number and added 25% because that's the number that was used in the 39 Beechwood Road submission. So we thought it was a safe number to go with. Now, what that does for us, obviously, there's some, and you may have noticed, the shaded cells represent amounts in excess of 100%. So some of these might be higher than what they actually are. Some of them might be lower. There's just no way to determine coverage without going to all 31 other residences and doing those calculations. So what we have here, we have the allowable coverage, we have the existing coverage, we have allowable FAR, existing FAR, using the village's formula, so to speak. And what we found is there are, out of these 31 neighboring properties, because there's 32 here, one of which is ours, 21 of them are over 100% of allowable FAR. And out of the 22 rather are over 100% of the allowable FAR. And out of those 22, 15, if you see footnote number 2, are over 157% of the allowable FAR. Now the 157%, why are we mentioning 157%? That's because if you look at the top box there.
It's coverage, not FAR, right?
What happened?
It's both.
Yeah, it's both. Coincidentally,
But
that's
you
not a typo. It's the same number.
I think 157 is associated with the coverage. All right. go
No,
ahead.
both. It's coverage and FAR.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see that. Right, okay, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, I skipped to 2 to talk about FAR first before coverage. Just because in my head that's sort of how I view it. But
I didn't realize both the same number, sorry.
yeah, it's a little tricky. It's a little but coincidentally, they're both at the same exact number. So that 157% is what we're proposing for the 20 Elm Park. So we said, okay, 22 properties are over 100%. 15 are over the 157%. So that means 15 of the 31 surrounding properties are, which is a little more than 50%. Or a little less than 50%. About 50% there are over what we are proposing in terms of FAR. And I understand there's no, well, they did it, we should be able to do it, but it gives you a good understanding of the neighborhood. And it gives you a good understanding that what we're proposing here is not really too out of the ordinary for the neighborhood. Going to coverage, it's the same idea. We compared it to the 157%. And out of those 21 that are over 100% of allowable coverage, 16 are over the 157% that we are proposing here. So again, we're not an anomaly in terms of the neighborhood, in terms of the surrounding properties, and regarding exactly what we're proposing. Now,
George, can I just interrupt you 1 second? Because
Yeah.
while you're on this chart, what you don't have here is your proposed coverage and your proposed FAR number to give us a percentage of that. That's the number that we compare to everybody else.
Yeah,
It's not-
on the second line, Mike.
It says allowable and existing.
No, no. Willingham, line 2 says
Oh, I
proposed.
see. I see. Okay.
Yes.
You look at it and it looks like for coverage, it goes up 23.
I
And
see.
for FAR, it goes up, 17?
17%.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and apologies if the chart's a little confusing. I know there's a lot of numbers to look
It's
at.
actually it's actually good.
I appreciate that. And we appreciate that as a team. But so, and then 2 of these surrounding properties are actually, if you look at property number 8 and property number 2, these are surrounding apartment buildings, condos, and co-ops. And actually number 2 rather, Irvington Estate Owners 14 South Broadway. That, I don't know if you guys Nick, do we have an aerial view of the surrounding neighborhood that you could pull up quickly?
Well, that's not really comparable, George. It's a multifamily building. I mean,
Yeah, and to be fair, you're right. That is a little different, but there is a lot of coverage issues and a lot of concrete around the neighborhood is my point. So we're not directly comparing to that, but we do want to show, again, we're not an anomaly of this. If you can zoom out to show the whole neighborhood, Nick. Actually, wait, forget it. I'm sorry. We have on the next page, don't we have the aerial map on the next page of that table, right, Nick?
Yes, is the first page.
Yes.
Go back.
Yes,
Apologies.
go back, sorry.
Around.
So this is what we looked at, right? And that's not comparable. You're very right. But this is the neighborhood that we're dealing with, and we don't want it to come off like we're an anomaly here. So there's a method to this madness in terms of the numbers. It's like a circle formation and anything like that. But this is how we took all the residential from this surrounding. These are the people that got the notices. They're abutting landowners by the definition of the village code. So if you have any questions on the actual chart, I'm more than willing to address those.
Ed and Doug, you guys okay with the way they presented the coverage and FAR?
Yeah, I mean, I generally leave it up to the board as long as they, calculate it correctly, and yeah.
The
Represents evenly and fairly the neighborhood.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right. So,
yeah, sorry. If we have no questions on that, I'll hand it right back over to Mark.
thank you. Thank you, George.
Does anybody on the board have a question on the chart before it goes away?
I just have a quick comment. I think it shouldn't it say percentage of allowed? I was a little confused by it. Isn't it like technically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, percentage of, yes, sorry about, yeah, we have
That's
percentage
okay.
of lot and percentage, yeah, apologies
Just so
for
it's not
that.
confusing if
Yeah.
it's looked at later.
All right, so we found an issue with the chart.
Yeah.
We looked long enough. Yeah.
We will address that for sure. Thank you for pointing that out. Apologies.
Okay, move on to whatever's next.
Oh, okay, so one of the other items is has to do with the change or clarifications. I want to show that within the aqueduct buffer. I just want to talk a little bit about what's happening there in that the back of the property, and in particular the backyard area. So what we did is we cut a cross section through the aqueduct and through the backyard, and Nick will pull that up shortly.
I think we asked for to extend it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went to the center of the aqueduct, and a little bit hard to read there. Nick, maybe you can just zoom in on. Yeah, please. Thank you. So essentially, what you see is you see. So there's roughly a little bit hard to read, 6.5 plus minus feet from of grade change elevation to a 7-foot high wall that borders on that westerly property line. So you can't see below. I mean, at best case scenario, you can't see into the backyard at that ground level at all. You can see the new proposed windows that are on that kitchen, and the very top of the door, the head of the door. If you're in the center of that aqueduct area over there. So most of what takes place in that backyard is private and will not be seen. And I think that just, again, bringing some clarification to that configuration. We have a photo if you'd like to see that. I think that might even be an even better. Yeah. So that's right up against the house there. So the house is right on that property line, and that's the wall, and that's a photo taken essentially from the center line, and there you can see the increase in grade. You can see the wall. There's an existing door that leads to the aqueduct, and you really can't see what's happening in that backyard. And
Let me ask you, there's an existing grassy area backyard on your property on the other side of the wall?
yeah, we'll show you that as well. So so on the other side of the wall, you see it there. You see the red door there in the upper right-hand corner and in the left-hand corner. So, yeah, if you look at the upper left, you see the wall, you see the door, and you can see what I was referring to earlier that we did not have in that coverage calculation. There are stairs and two little retaining walls that lead down to an entrance into the basement level. So that is a grass area back there with the exception of the access way to the basement, but the rest of it is essentially all grass. So our initial intention was to put, two windows and a door that lead to that back area with those steps that would take you to that backyard from the kitchen, which is kind of nice because you can make your coffee and walk outside the back there and sit outside. And again, the original presentation had a patio so you could barbecue back there. As a response to the board's comments last time, we've removed that. But that gives you some sense now of what's happening there within the aqueduct buffer.
Okay.
All right. And by the way, just while we're on this, because one of the comments there had to do with light fixtures. So all of the so there's two approaches here. All of the existing light fixtures are either some are being relocated or they're remaining the same. The light fixture right next to the door here on this patio, that to the right there, that is the only new proposed light fixture, and it is dark sky compliant. But that just, while we're on this this image, I wanted to show you that as well. That is the only.
The new patio in the front, is that going to have any lighting?
There's existing lighting there on the patio right now, Nick, if you want to. Yeah, and I can get back to that when we get in the comments, but maybe we could show you that. Yeah, see the lights there? Yeah, you can see them there. There are two lights that flank the entryway. And then there are three lights
One,
that exist in the courtyard area right now.
three.
So again, only one new proposed light. Yeah.
Okay. Could you go to that parking area where I mentioned the tree and the wall?
Yes. Yeah, I think we'll kick this over to Brian and Greg for that conversation.
Hey, blow that area.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, my name is Greg Mercurio. I'm the landscape architect on the property, and I've gone through the comments. I've been to the property on multiple occasions, and I actually, when I go out and to do these projects, we always do a site analysis, and we agreed with the comments.
Could you raise the picture a little bit? It's on my screen. I can't. The other way. There you go. Okay.
So I guess really what we're talking about is in the Nolan comments that number one about it being close to the proposed retaining wall. And we agree that, yes, this tree is going to be impacted by the proposed retaining wall, and that, we can see that, rather than having it be impacted and suffer the root structure and potential hazards of having a tree that is put in that condition, we're proposing to remove that sugar maple. That's not represented in this plan that you have before you, but we have prepared updated plans to respond to that. And due to the constraints of the design, we couldn't really move the retaining wall to fit the turnaround in there. So what we're proposing to install in replacement of that tree, as well as the others, are native shade trees. When we get around to the tree in the northwest corner, where there were some comments about the green giant that was planted below the drip line, we're also proposing on this new landscape plan or updated landscape plan to remove that tree as well. It's an 18-inch caliper Norway maple, and it's in a poor condition and hazardous. As a matter of fact, I actually recommend that it be removed as soon as possible due to its condition.
They
So,
talked about condition. What about the condition of the 3 trees in the parking area that are gonna come down? Are they healthy trees that just coming down, or?
to be honest, I didn't really do too much of a health inspection on those. I did do a caliper, you know, a measurement of the diameter of those trees. I do recall that the third one there, the 32-inch caliper sugar maple that, you know, we are proposing, they all seem to be in fairly healthy condition.
Actually, there is one, Greg, there is one, Tom had an arborist go out. There is one that has to come down, and I think we have
Okay.
one from the arborist on that as well. And
When you say, you mean one of those 3?
one of
Correct.
the 3 is in poor condition and it's dropping limbs. And there is a letter from an arborist recommending that it come down. And I
So
believe
include that
it's the one to the left.
Yes,
and include what you're doing to replace.
correct.
Where-
Yeah,
Where are you gonna replace?
we have that. We're proposing for the 4 trees that are coming down, we're proposing 3 swamp white oak at 3 to 3.5-inch caliper and 1 sugar maple at 3 to 3.5-inch caliper.
I'm not a tree person too much, but I think the emphasis in native species, I don't know if those are.
Yes, they are. And the Nolan comment was about maybe using a 2.5-inch caliper tree, which is a good sized tree. But we decided just to up it the size slightly by, you know, one notch. So the other comments as far as the
Well,
length,
you wanted to up it to what?
oh, it's 3 to 3.5-inch caliper.
How does that translate it to something in height? So I
It's
can-
probably like a factor larger, you know, so maybe instead of a 12-foot tree, it's a 15-foot tree.
Oh, okay, now I understand. A
Mhm.
3.5-inch diameter didn't mean anything to me until you told me the height. Okay.
Yes, sir. Just to continue on the landscape items for a minute, there were also some comments about showing a barrier, a landscaping barrier above the proposed parking, above the proposed retaining wall on the other side. Do we have a copy of can I show my updated plan at this point, or?
Yeah, Nick, I think we have it, correct?
Yeah, you got it, might as well show it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can share it. Give me 1 second.
Sure. It'll just give you a sense of how, you know, we responded to each of the comments.
And these plans, of course, will be included in our next physical submission, so you guys could review them up close and personal. These were done at sort of the 11th hour based on the recent comments that we got for, you know, we said, let's try to address these comments, you know, to talk
You-
about.
But you could fine tune it and discuss it with Susan Nolan so that she's in agreement before you come back. Not that you come back and we're gonna comment on what you could have hashed out with Susan ahead of time.
Okay, that sounds great. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what it is. If you want to zoom on that lower section to see there, but we are proposing on this, what's to be an updated plan, the removal of that third maple tree along the property line there.
Okay, very good. Okay. Anything else in presentation with your team?
Sure, yeah, I could quickly run through I know drainage was brought up at the beginning of the presentation. For the
All right.
record, Brian Hildenbrand, the engineer for the project.
Everything, but might as well. It is an issue.
Yeah, and you're right, we are at the bottom of a hill. So our approach to what we're doing is improving kind of the existing conditions and then also mitigating our improvements. What the driveway does now is it drains right to the edge of the garage. There's an existing trench drain right at the garage door, which is not ideal. You know, if that grate gets overwhelmed or clogged, I mean, it's going right into the garage. So as part of our driveway improvement, we're going to create some low points on either side of the garage, install new drainage inlets, And also we have a trench drain about halfway up the driveway to help intercept water coming down. And but the plan is we're going to mitigate the 100-year storm using infiltration chambers in the front yard. Right now, there's a dry well just adjacent to the new system, and there's an existing dry well. So we're fairly confident in the soils, but we will test and submit the soil testing results before we start construction.
Okay. All right. Anything, let me canvass the board here. Mike Smith?
No, I have no further questions. I just appreciate all of the effort that your team made and the changes that your team made.
Dan?
No further questions, and I echo the same praise, for the team and their efforts.
Laurie?
Didn't you have some flooding and water concerns in the back by the stairway there? That I remember you talking about that last time. Did you discover anything different there?
There hasn't, yeah, I mean, there are flooding. The existing setup is not performing well. It's the roof leaders are connected to a sump pump and then pumped to an infiltration basin. Part of what we're proposing as part of the kind of fixing what's existing is connecting those roof leaders directly into the infiltrator using gravity, which will just take that failure point out of the situation.
Okay, and then also, so you took the barbecue off of the back deck. Are you putting a barbecue on the front?
I think that right now it could be out front. I don't think that space, it's really the only hardscape outdoor space. So again, outdoor tables, seating, it could be a grill, I suppose. I don't know that we've got, we're showing here and a preliminary plan of how that space might be programmed. It does not show a barbecue at this point, but it could possibly be. I mean, it's not far from the kitchen, so it could be a good place to have something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin?
No questions. No, thank you.
All right, in an effort, Ed, when is the next ZBA meeting? Is it before our meeting?
Yes, the deadline is Monday.
Okay. Given the extent of the coverage and FAR, I think, and our only issues with the trees, that you could probably go to the ZBA and state your case for the coverage variance and the FAR variance, and assuming whatever they do, if you get okay from them, or you have to go back, you still have to come back to us to fix the trees. But I think that'll move this along a little bit. Does anybody on the board have an issue with that plan of approach?
I don't, except Caesar. I think, isn't there still some work being done in the aqueduct buffer? I'm asking.
We'll go with that variance too. They got to present that.
There's a few more variances.
Yeah, so it's
Rear
not just.
yard, Marianne.
Pardon?
There's a few variances, rear yard, aqueduct. buffer.
Yeah, so there's, okay, it's not just FAR and coverage. Those are the main ones, but there's a
Those are
couple.
the main
others.
ones.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I
Those are-
just didn't want them to think that's all they could go with. Yeah, they should get the
And
whole
they need
lot.
to complete- And they need to complete the ARB too, Steve.
Say that again, Ed.
George didn't report on that. Remember they
Oh,
had to go
yes.
to the ARB because this fell in the definition of demolition because of the work they were doing on the facade facing the buffer. George, you should give him an update on that.
Yes, apologies for skipping over that. On Monday, we were before the ARB for the application for demolition of the contributing building facing the public way. We have the approval from the ARB to move forward before the planning board. I don't have anything in writing. The minutes haven't been published yet, but we did get the approval to come before you guys, and that's why we are before you guys. But they had no issues with the window relocations and all that work going on in the back. And we even touched on the they weren't sure what the public way was, whether it was the east side or the west side of the building. So they said, we're good to go on both sides. We're good to go before you guys. So, and obviously we understood that we do have to come back for the ARB, for the full ARB application down the road.
Okay. Now I'm looking at this rendering and the landscape architect could confirm this. All the new plantings you have there for the new building, the new bedroom, all that is going to be or been documented with what species are going in and native species and so forth. Correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And one last thing, I have my notes here, something about bamboo removal. I think Suzanne mentioned there is a rigorous procedure somewhere on how to remove and destroy bamboo. You don't know what I'm talking about? Check with Suzanne Nolan.
No, I'm 100% familiar with it. We did the research and we have the specifications outlined on the new plans that we're going to submit for you guys. I'll review it with Susan Nolan office to make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay. It's more than, my basic understanding, it's more than just removal. It's just
Yeah, they want you to air dry it and then they want you to bag it in a heavy duty poly and then let it sit in the sun for a minimum of 3 weeks before you bring it to the landfill and secure it in a fashion that it doesn't blow out the back of the truck as you're getting over there. So a lot of common sense stuff, but the stuff as far as the kind of cooking it in the poly wrap and bags before you bring it to the landfill seems to be the main point in their guidance.
It appears to be something that just doesn't want to go away, and it's more of a destruction process than a removal. So.
Yeah, we might need to get the jackhammer out to remove that.
Right, there you go. Okay, anybody have a problem with the roadmap that I laid out about the ZBA and then coming back for the trees to us and whatever the landscape plans have to, and the firming up of the bamboo? Mike?
No, that sounds fine with me.
Dan?
Very sensible, Caesar.
Laurie?
Sounds good, thanks.
Evan?
The plan works for me.
Sarah, anything in the public?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And you
Thank
really
you.
actually responded well to our concerns, and that's why we're moving forward. And good luck at the ZBA.
I appreciate it. Can I ask one question quickly before we're let go? So
Okay, the last time I said to somebody, okay, for one more question, they had 3 more questions. So go ahead.
I will try to keep it to 1. So, well, actually, it might be 1.5. I apologize, but they're very quick. 1, do we need a physical documentation of referral to proceed before the ZBA or any official documentation like that?
Ed, you take care of that, don't you?
Yeah, give Sarah a call in the morning. We'll take care of everything.
Okay, and then number 2, are we also allowed to proceed with the ARB application now, or is it ZBA planning board then ARB? What's the procedure on the full ARB application?
You need to have all your approvals prior to going to the ARB.
Okay, so we'll go ZBA back to planning and then ARB for the full thing. Okay, thank you very much, guys. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your comments and have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
very Okay, that was number 3. We're moving on to number 4. 2011, 3 Dow's Lane.
Caesar, I have to recuse myself from this one.
Okay, and we're going to go with 4 members because our alternate is on an airplane someplace flying.
Okay, thank you.
I am back for 3 Dow's Lane, John Malone, Ferguson Malone Architecture.
My God, 3 times tonight.
But remember, Caesar, I had that meeting where I had none, so now I'm paying the price. So there seems like there's was there one comment, or let me share. Hold on a second.
Well, the basic comment to start with, I have a big note here with a big circle around it on my notes. Make a new application. Did you do that?
Make a new application. Yes, this is a new application.
I thought somebody mentioned to me that it was, again, a modification of an old application.
I'm not sure, Ed. Did we make a new modification? Do you know what a new application or what was this?
It must be the old one, John, because the number's 2020. If it were a new application, it'd be 2022.
Okay,
There wasn't a new application in the submission, Joe.
okay, so we can make it a new application. We must have missed that.
It was, I mean, I know I said it because I got it here and I got a big circle around it, so.
Yeah, I think I think that we must have not done that. We can do that. And I think the issue was
I thought my daughter was the only one who didn't listen.
no, there's others. So that's not in the comments that we have here, but yeah, okay.
The other thing is you still have not accounted for all the coverage that along Ed, you want to go through that? There's a cobblestone pathway in the back.
And I talked to Larry about it because I said, what's going on? And he said that you were out there and he's dumped some bricks or something back over here.
That's correct.
All right. I'll go measure it and we'll either add it to the coverage as part of the request or we'll take it out.
Show it to be removed. Either get it approved or show it to be removed.
Yeah, what is it? What is it, Ed? Is it something, it's not hard set, it's just
non-pervious surface. That's all. It's pavers, it's bricks, it's flagstone, all laid.
Okay.
Wasn't there air conditioning pads too that were not in the coverage calculation?
They added that, Caesar.
Okay.
That they added. That's in the ballooned area.
Yeah, that's over here. I think.
A little further over. A little further
Yeah,
over.
this one here. So Ed says there's other stuff here.
So yeah, so it's just pavers from there to the corner.
Okay. Okay.
John, I'm looking at my notes and I said something about the fence, if we could see what the fence looked like, and we weren't sure what the fence looked like.
Yeah, well, so in the submission, we submitted some images if you want to look at it.
Sure.
Okay. Sorry. Should open that piece. Oops. It's in here. So this is the piece of fence that's missing that needs to be replaced. It's a stockade fence. This is
Is that part of the application to replace that fence?
Yeah. So the portion I think was removed to get access to that corner so they can put it back once they put the tank in.
Ed, is that part of the application, the fence repair?
I didn't see, Caesar, I didn't see it, but I'll make sure it's on the ARB submission.
Yeah.
There it says stockade fence to be reinstalled.
Right. An area, right. And then I think there's a drawing of a stockade fence, but
Yeah, it's on there.
All right.
So, if we're coming back, do you guys want us to come back before we go to ZBA with that additional coverage?
Yes, because the coverage.
The numbers are right.
The numbers are not, I really don't like sending something to the ZBA with bad numbers.
Right, that's fine. And then thinking of the other comments here, I'll get pictures of the actual HVAC equipment, so we can add that. Okay, so we'll pick up. It's basically the two things. And in terms of the setbacks, in terms of the things we'll be asking for, yeah, it'll be coverage, but also setback. Okay. Yeah, that's fine unless you guys have other questions. I think we.
Well, I'll poll the board. Mike?
I have no further questions, thanks.
Dan? Oh, Dan recused
Dan's
himself.
recused
Yeah.
himself.
Lori,
No questions, thanks.
Kevin,
No questions.
Sarah, anything from the public?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
All right, John, we'll see you next time. And if you heard my opening remarks, the applicant and consultants, we're going to have a hybrid next meeting when you come back.
We'll be on Zoom and you guys will be in the building. Okay, that's great. So that's some step. That's at least halfway, right? That's good.
You got halfway home.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you, John.
Bye.
Number 5 is 2 Deep Hollow Close, which is 2022-07.
Evening.
Got a good picture of your chest.
Let me get my drawings up. Let me see. Let me know if you can see that.
It's
There we go. Yeah.
So this is an application to legalize an existing wood deck, which is shown highlighted here. It is located at the rear of the property, and as indicated in the zoning summary, the resulting coverage exceeds the allowable. It is an oversized lot, but even with we are still over the coverage limit. I received the comments from Han Engineering. They noted in their comments that the variance is required. They also noted, if you can see here, there's a small stair that comes off the deck that impedes in the side yard setback. So I will add that as a variance request and go to the ZBA if I can get a referral. I will address Han Engineering's comments, and I will note that the current owners, this does predate the current owners. This was uncovered during a title search when the property was put on the market a few months ago.
And the most often, not most, all the time, when one seeks a variance, and if I recollect in looking at it, it's close to 600 square feet over the allowable. I
Correct.
think it was 598 to be exact, but we'll go with 600. And if this were a new proposal to put it in, the applicant would present a reason why they needed a variance. So what's the reason, other than it's to make it legal, what's the reason to look for a 600 square foot over the allowable?
So I think if you look at the size of the lot, it is not overdeveloped. There is, it's
not a reason for 600 feet.
well, again, Caesar, I think the only
You're gonna have parties back there? You're gonna land a helicopter? You know, what are you doing with the 600s?
it predates the existing owner. There's probably I can't really speak to that. I don't know why, what the reasoning was for the people that initially installed it. It is a large deck, but there is a pretty good sized flat area at the rear. It looks like it fits. It doesn't appear to be overwhelmingly in the size. If you, I can flip to the oops, why is this thing not letting me? I can flip to the rear elevation. It's also, it's at ground level, except for this one section here where there's a railing around the stair. But it doesn't really, it's not very impactful to the site.
Like I said, if this was a new application for a new deck, they generally say that, what they're going to do with it. Anyway, it's quite extensive. And were you listening to the very previous application?
Yes.
You saw the neighborhood chart of
yep.
And And as you said, the neighborhood is such, and you went on for a few sentences to tell us what the neighborhood was like. We'd like to see with numbers what the neighborhood is like with a neighborhood chart.
I'll put that together.
And then you can come back with that and why the deck, the compelling reason for the deck. And the neighborhood chart as to, is this something that's way out there in terms of the neighbors, or is the neighborhood much like the previous application, pretty much the majority of the neighborhood was larger than the applicant. So, and no, you cannot, I can't stop you from going to the ZBA, but if you were to go, I would send a note to them saying that we did not pass on this. We have no neighborhood chart. We had no compelling reason for the variance. And it would not be a very nice note to the ZBA if you decide to go there without permission.
I wouldn't. So I'll come back for the next meeting for planning board and seek a referral then.
Well, depending on what we look at, I can't prejudge what you're going to give us. You can certainly seek that, but we have to look at what you're going to give us.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would seek that, yes.
And let me ask the board if they have any thoughts. Mike Smith?
So this is a very large, I mean, it's over 1,000 square feet of deck, which is larger than a large one-bedroom apartment. And I'm just wondering whether a reason for such decking is the ground, is the ground wet? Is it, because what it reminded me of when I saw the pictures of it was actually the kind of decking that you walk out onto in a preserve. I mean, even in the woods, in Irvington Woods, they have decking like that. So that's consistent with Caesar's comment about giving us a reason for the decking. It may be that it's just for the personal enjoyment of the homeowner, right? I don't know. But I was wondering whether there was a grounds topological reason for such a size of the decking. And I point out, I mean, we were always amazed. I mean, the ZBA turned down didn't grant a variance for a very nominal extension of a deck up on Palliser just a couple of months ago. Where it was really very nominal. And so I think you would need to have that information to go to them anyway.
Understood.
I think another aspect of the presentation should be an explanation about the additional deck in addition to the existing deck, which is attached to the house, which you can see from the road. If you bring
the front deck, just
front deck,
yeah.
I mean, you already have a deck. Maybe you can include that in the conversation of, yeah, that deck is over there and it's not near the kitchen, or the sky, right, the sunlight on it is not good, or whatever. I don't know, but that has to be part of the conversation because you already have a deck that was approved.
Understood.
Okay, Mike, you got anything else before I ask Dan?
No, I don't.
Dan?
No additional comments, but it would be interesting to hear the compelling reason as to why the deck exists or at this point. But
Lori?
No comments.
I'm probably less popular with my fellow board members, but I don't have such a big deal with the deck that has existed for 10 years that the homeowner inherited. All the neighbors have been noticed. I will see if there's public comment. I don't think we got any letters about it. And I feel like it's been, unless there are police reports that these people have had wild parties that have bothered the neighbors, I don't see it as being such a big deal. I actually think it would be, obviously cumbersome on the homeowner to have to take it down. A new homeowner might come and then want to put in another deck. I'm not as bothered by it as everybody else is.
Yeah, and just to speak to
Before you go, Laurie
Sure.
mentioned something that might be another issue. There's the structural integrity of the deck may require investigation by the building department. Ed?
Yeah, Caesar, we wouldn't ask them to dig up the footings and check the framing until they got their approval, because it might be for not.
Okay. Laurie, you done? I mean, you finished?
Yeah,
don't
I'm good, thank you.
Kevin?
I don't have any other comments. I think, Matt, you were going to say something in response to what Lori said.
Yeah, and thank you. I do understand the reasoning for having a rationale or a reason why the size is required. But unfortunately, the previous owners have passed away. This was part of a trust sale. So otherwise, I'd try to contact them and say, why did you build such a big deck? But I can talk to the current owners and see, obviously they just bought the house, so they haven't really had time to, especially with the weather, to really use the deck. So it's really speculation as to what the motive was or requirement. So, but I understand the need to express that. So we'll work on something.
Well, I just want to go through the procedure that we would normally do if it was a new application, neighborhood chart and some reasons for it.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Other than say, well, it's illegal, come here and you guys rubber stamp this and we'll be on our way.
Right.
That's not the way, I personally would not operate that way.
Wait, Caesar, I have a question because I was confused. So I thought the current homeowner had been there for 10 years with the deck and they were looking to sell the property and that's how they found out. So now I think what I'm hearing is the current homeowners bought it. They didn't know that the deck was illegal and somehow found out. Is that the correct?
Correct. It was again, it was an estate sale and this was uncovered during title search.
Okay, that's helpful. I mean, I feel badly for them, to be honest, that like they bought a house and then they found this out and it, to make it more difficult for them, but I guess we'll see when you come back.
Lori, in all likelihood, they closed knowing of the issue, and I'm sure at the closing they dealt with the issue. And this is simply they bought knowing about the problem, but I
Okay.
think that the contract probably deals with it.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, and again, I'll reiterate what I said. If this was a new application, these are the kind of things we would ask for. And I'd be remiss if, something like this came in. Oh, you want to make it legal? Here's the rubber stamp. Have a nice day. That's not reasonable of our board. Okay.
Understood. Susan. Yep. And
Did I get everybody? Yes. Mary Ann, did you have anything?
No.
Okay, are we done with this? Other than the public? Everybody okay? Everybody commented? Sarah, you have anything in the public?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
All right, what Mike and Lori were talking about and how that transferred, you may want to touch on that when you come back.
Will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and you heard what I said, that'll be when you come back, it'll be a hybrid meeting. The board will be in person and the applicant and consultants would be by Zoom. The way you are tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving into number 6, which is 44 Northbrook Lane. It's 2022-06.
Hello, good evening, members of the board. I'm Chris Schmidt, representing the Laboon for 44 Northbrook. Okay. You're welcome. So I just wanted to, I have the comments here from Mr. Hahn. I did have a few questions on those. I don't know if you wanted me.
Before you get to the comments, maybe you could present what you're doing.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to ask. I wasn't sure. Some other people, I was trying to figure out what they're doing. So what we're doing is there's an existing concrete paver patio in the backyard. During this process, it was discovered that the patio had not gone through the appropriate approval process when it was installed by the previous homeowners. There's also an outdoor kitchen in the back under the same circumstances. My client would like to remove the existing patio and install a new bluestone patio, remove the existing outdoor kitchen and install a new one. He'd also like to add a small patio with a fire pit just off the main patio, as well as a covered roof structure that's going to be attached to the house off of a portion of the existing patio so that they can utilize the space in more seasons than just the summer is the plan.
Could you bring up some pictures of what you're doing?
Sure.
And the site plan.
Yes. So this is the existing, the site plan that was submitted. I'll zoom in a little bit.
There's no image showing
Right.
up.
I'm sorry.
Not sure. There you go.
There we go. Sorry, we're a Teams company, not a Zoom, so relearning Zoom every time I'm on it. So we'll start with the existing.
Whoop, you just slid away.
So, excuse me?
That you were sliding away. Go ahead.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I just want to start with the existing conditions. So the existing conditions are, the current patio that's here now with the barbecue on the corner here. What we are proposing to do is rework the existing patio, move the outdoor kitchen over a bit, and then this would be the outline of the new raised structure. It's 14 feet by 16 feet. And then we'll have a few bluestone stepping stones here to an auxiliary patio with a wood burning fire pit. Our construction access will be off the main driveway here, where we're proposing to put in a stabilized construction access. We'll set up a silt fence as our limit of disturbance to contain the disturbance of the lawn and the landscape in the back. And, really once we're done with the installation of the project, replace the lawn and the turf and the irrigation, and then also add some ornamental plantings that are on a slope here in the backyard.
I bring the picture down a little bit so I can see, I want to see the top of the screen better. All right, you see the water course there?
Yes. So
well, we have some rules about water courses / wetlands. If you're in the 100-foot buffer, you need to apply for permits. So I'm not sure, you're right on the fringe. You need to show the 100-foot distance from that water course / wetland.
Yeah, Mr. Hahn mentioned that in his notes, and we'll do that. I did a quick measurement, and it appears we're about 115 feet from there, so we should be clear. But I'll definitely mark this, and we'll label the buffer for the next submission.
All right, the other thing, if you go over to Northbrook, the road, bring your cursor over there. There's right around there, just the other side of the road, the property side of the road. Right there, you have a play set that's not on the plans.
Yes.
That should be represented on the plan.
Yes, and Mr. Hahn, that was one of my questions. Mr. Hahn asked that we include that in the coverage. The play set is sitting on lawn currently, so I wasn't sure how much of the play set he would like included in the coverage.
Well, we have some rules about that. Ed, Ed or Doug, you want to go work with him on that?
We can go over that offline, but that it would be any structure that's a combination of building material. So the lawn wouldn't count, but all the structure of the place structure would.
Okay.
All right, I think you were under on coverage. You were still okay, so I'm not sure what the play set will do to that. But
Correct. It's not an overly large play set. I don't think it'll be an impact on the overall coverage or put us over.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think it does either. And the other comment 1 and 2 are just, just to confirm it, clean it up a little, that's all.
Yeah, there was a 37 square foot discrepancy. I saw the error after you pointed it out, and so we'll take care of that on the resubmission.
again, near the-
Oh, sorry, that's easier. I was gonna say, there's an old plan also with some wetlands on it. We'll send that over to you, so you can just double check and, whichever one is more conservative, use that. There
Okay,
was an
yeah,
old plan that had been submitted, so.
yeah, and that's what I was trying to locate, because this one has this, and then I also did pull up, the GIS, and it looks like it does maybe encroach a little bit further onto the property, and this is the one I used to measure to get that 113. So if you could send that plan, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
what's your email, just in case?
It is Chris, Kris, at Neve Group, NEAVE Group.com.
Okay, Doug? Doug, you're okay?
Yeah, thank you.
But go back to the play area, the play set area. You may want to consider some shrubs there, because when you're on the road, I mean, the planting that's there, they're rather high and they don't provide any screening, so.
Yeah, the existing spruce trees, as typical, the bottom starts to die out as they get shaded out.
Yeah.
The landscape architect made that note. I was going to ask if they had any recommendations, if it was okay to do deciduous shrubs, finding a shade tolerant.
And talk to her and work it out for the next submission.
Okay. And the client said, honestly, if it's that big of a deal, they're willing to just remove it as well.
Remove what?
The play set.
Well, that doesn't change the issue of the shrubs, but
Exactly. But, at least it moves that. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that whatever plantings we put in there aren't going to fail, in the near future, given the existing trees that are there.
well, yeah, you don't have to put it under the trees. You could move it around, put it someplace. Just to the view line from the street to your patios is quite wide open, so doesn't necessarily have to be underneath those pines, because like you said, that you put a new plant in, you might kill the roots of the existing plants. So
Correct. All right, so I'll work with the landscape architect on the screening there. A few other questions.
with emphasis on native species, of course.
Absolutely.
Is there going to be any lighting? We have dark sky ordinances with your new patios.
There's going to be some path lighting and some down lighting installed, but none of it. I'll double check the code and confirm that nothing will, violate the code with the dark skies. But all of it will be area lights.
Make a note on the plans that that's the case.
Okay. Will do. So one of the other items on here was the locating of the protected trees, which I made a mistake when reading the code about anything over 8 inches at DBH. So I was wondering if there was any possibility, given the location of the construction work and the fact that we're essentially replacing what's there, that we could maybe get some relief from locating the trees, as all of those trees are located up in this area well outside the limited disturbance.
I'm not following what you want. You want to take the trees down, or?
No, I don't want to take.
He's saying they're not within the work zone. So yeah, that's okay with me.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'm not understanding what you want.
So one of the requirements would be to locate any tree on the property that has a DBH of over 8 inches. And given that there are none within the work area, I was just asking to not have to locate these trees, or have my client, have a surveyor locate. We're not proposing to take any trees down.
Just make a note that they're how many feet outside of the construction area.
Okay.
And the other, further on that note, it's not only the tree trunk, it's the root. So you may need some protection of the root zone. I don't know what the distance is, but just as long as the drip line or the root zone is protected during the construction.
Okay.
Or not in the construction area, or just if they are going to be, put some root protection down.
Yeah, I do have a few, some photos of the site if you want to take a look. So this is, looking up into where the majority of those trees would be. And all
that rock there, yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, it doesn't really add to anything. It's just money. Yeah.
Exactly. I appreciate that. So the trees. The only other question I had for the response was the names and addresses of all adjacent property owners. I just wanted to confirm, is it only going to be the ones that the property abuts, or do we also want to do across the street?
Just the ones that abut it.
Okay, fantastic. I think other than that, that's fine. I will change item 5C on the application to be yes, which is in reference to the protected trees. But I'll make a note about them being outside the construction zone, including the drip zone.
Right.
And I think as far as
I don't think the construction equipment is going to hit those rocks too hard in the root zone. So
no. Yeah, anything in that area, in particular, where the great if I can move that around. Yeah, anything in that upper area where those larger trees are, all planting in here is going to be all by hand. We're not bringing any equipment into that area.
Okay.
And I will provide a planting plan and a plant list to confirm that nothing's invasive. We do, myself, I try to always use as many native plants and non-invasive plants as possible.
Okay, bring up the picture. There's a picture where you can actually see the playset from your patio. If you
Yeah.
there's nothing that says that the plantings has to be. It could be anywhere, up on that upper plateau above between that retaining wall and the playset. It's just. I'm not making this a requirement, but it just seems to me you may want to you can see the car there. If you had some shrubs, you wouldn't have a direct view line to your patio.
Right, exactly. And I just wanted to check with her to find out what recommended screening tree. I know that there's lots of different options, whether it be evergreen or deciduous. And the client would probably want to, take care of that view as well. But I'll work with her on that planting plan.
Okay, your presentation is complete. I'll ask the board for comment. That was a question. Is the presentation complete? So
Sorry. Yes, the presentation is complete. Thank you.
Right, Mike?
No further questions.
Dan?
No questions, Susan. Thank you.
Lori?
No questions, thanks.
Kevin?
No, thank you.
Sarah, anything from the public?
There's nobody raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Looks like a nice set of presentation there with the renderings. Appreciate it, and just clear up the.
The only thing I could say, Caesar, is looking at the photograph makes me dream of spring.
This is true. I'm told we're going to have some 60-degree weather on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. So
Can't come soon enough.
your client will be jealous that they don't have this done yet.
Trust me, yes, they're pushing quite hard. So,
Okay, we'll see you next time, and I'm sure you'll address, this is not big stuff, just needs to get it done. Pay attention to, at the end of Doug Hahn's letter, there's some drainage questions he wants on where the existing stuff goes, so make sure you.
yeah, I'll have to work. I'm not familiar, and neither is the homeowner. I asked him about any, being that they're not the original owners. So I was going to check with the building department, see if they have any plans of any current existing. The downspouts and leaders do appear to go underground. I don't know if they're going into an infiltrator system or not.
There's a catch basin right at the foot of the driveway. You may want to look in there.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll take a look in there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right,
We'll
thank
see
you. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you. I think we're done. Anybody have any thoughts on anything? We'll wait till the gentleman leaves. Okay, we're all done. Anybody want to add anything for next week, or we're just done and it's relatively early since given the last several meetings were over 10 o'clock?
Nope, I think we're good.
We're
Okay,
good.
bye. See everyone next
All
month.
right.
Night, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye now.
Hybrid meetings. Okay, thank you. Have a
Bye
good
now.
night.